Okay, good morning and welcome to session 4 of our flipped learning PD for Tec de Monterrey, Guadalajara. And let's see, I know Rocio is going to connect. So we'll see if we get Rocio here. Hold on for a second. There we go. And I'll flip over to our Schoology section. Let's see, Hartwig's submission from this morning. All right, so we are live and on the air. Any questions here? I'm sorry to be late. I had to do some drop-offs before I got back here. And we're talking about professional educator this week. Some good submissions. I haven't had a chance to look at everybody's submissions, actually. I put comments on some. I'm hoping to go through them pretty quick here this afternoon. There was some interesting comments came up about Hartwig said it, but it's not Hartwig. It's a lot of people saying that we can't just ask teachers to do all this extra stuff, and extra being recording video or being here online and using our time to communicate with each other or learn information or share what we're doing on top of everything else and getting past the point of actually I'm not being paid for this type of issue. And my response to that is no, we don't want people to work 50, 60-hour weeks and have some coffee. But what I want people to do is really reflect on where they're spending their time. I see a lot of teachers spend, 15, 20 minutes, an hour looking at a student's essay or submission or project and putting a lot of time into giving feedback to the student. And I think that's a good thing. The students need that feedback often. The question is whether that hour could be better spent somewhere else. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to spend an hour reviewing someone's essay, but is that time well spent? And that's really the thing we need to all reflect on. I no longer, for most of my activities for programming, I no longer ask my students to submit code and then review their code and put marks on their code and tell them what's right and wrong. And it'd be the same thing if I was teaching a class where they're giving an essay. Often this teacher will run into that frustration of they hand back that marked assignment and the students look at the number at the top and then literally throw it in the recycle bin. And that's pretty disheartening for a lot of teachers. So what I work on with my students is I want them to do that work. I want them to get to the final end. And in my course, at least, it's easy for them to see if it works or it doesn't work. In general, sometimes I've found what I think is easy to tell that it worked or didn't work is not actually true. And I need to improve that in my delivery for my assignments. But what I want really the students to do is to work on these projects or work on these assignments and learn through the doing and learn through the discussing with their colleagues and with me in class or outside of class, whether we're communicating over forums or social media or in person in the lab. So I think that's more of really what I want students to be working on. And that's why I say I don't generally ask them to submit code for me to mark and give back, because I don't even know if their dog did their coding. So it doesn't mean I don't want them to be able to code. It means that that's not an efficient use of my time and their time. I want them to use their time to learn. I want them to use their time to share what they're learning, to ask questions about the problems they're having, and enjoy that experience. And and not have the false. We had a discussion yesterday in our weekly meetings there in Desarrollo Académico in the campus, the Club de Innovación they call it. We just started last week, and it was great. There's a bunch of us, and I brought up the point of there's a classic blog post that someone wrote that I read about submissions for one. That it seems silly that a lot of times students do a lot of work, put everything together, do an amazing amount of work, and then they don't get much feedback, and then they're upset as well. But this submitting for one is really kind of, in general, not so effective. I'd like them to submit for many, and many can be their whole class or a group of classes, or put our classes together. And many times it could be submission for everybody, that they put out their work fully on the internet and expose themselves to comments and sharing what they're doing with the internet at large. So that was a big long ramble, and the real point is, I think we should all probably maybe not go crazy in making a journal, but do something where you are tracking where your time's going in your work. There's lots of tools you could use. You could just make a notebook, do reflections daily, spend 5-10 minutes and write down where your time went. There's some really cool tools. I'll show you one here if I'll screen share it, see if anyone shows up. I'm going to reload the Schoology page and see if someone showed up here. No, I don't see anyone there. Anybody here? If not, this will be a short ramble about my point on professional learning. Let's see. So tools. So track your time. I'm a data nerd, and you already know that. So one way you can track your time. Hold on. I'm not going to screen share yet. Let me bring up the web page in question before I screen share. Okay. Rescue. I'm going to bring up a web page here. It's actually a pretty cool tool, and I'll show it to you. I'm not going to show you my time right now. Maybe I'll do that some other time in person. I don't really want to show you what I do all day with my log. So I've been using this tool. I used it before, and I started using it again lately. So let me do a screen share of this Safari browser. So I'm not actually logged in. So if I switch to my Safari browser, there we go. So this is RescueTime. It's an interesting product. You can you sign up. You do a sign up procedure, and you log in. It's free for basic use. I've looked at the paid model as well, because it gives more detailed reports, both basically, and I believe supporting good software projects. So it's about tracking everything you do. If you're really worried about people seeing what you do, well, that's an issue. Maybe you don't want to do this. But you can install it on your laptop. You can install it on your cell phone. Anything that you connect to digitally, it will track everything you do. It'll tell you how much time you're spending on different websites, how much time you're spending on different applications. In the case of your laptop, if you haven't installed on Mac or Windows, or it even works in Linux. I have it installed on my Linux workstation at work. I have it installed on my laptop, and I have it installed on my phone. I'm not using a tablet right now, but you could do it there too. And it gives me a summary of, okay, you've spent this many hours or minutes in Facebook or Google Plus, or on a Google Hangout. I haven't had this running while I was using Google Hangout before, so we'll see how it reports that and how it classifies. So it looks everything you're doing, including if I have my shell open, or my Microsoft Word, or I use LaTeX to do writing, and it tracks minutes, seconds of the application that has the focus that's at the front of the window all the time, as well as on my phone. And then it tells me what I'm doing, and I can set goals. I can say, okay, I don't want to spend any more than an hour a day or 2 hours a day on between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on what's classified as non-productive time. And they have their own classifications. You can change the classifications, and they rate non-productive time of just surfing Wikipedia or reading the news on the internet. If I'm reading about hockey, they classify that as unproductive time. I like spending that time, and rest is fine, but it's good to have a view of actually what you're doing. So that's RescueTime. You can go and check it out. And I'll turn off the screen sharing. There we go. Come back to me and see if anyone else is connected. I'll try another invite and see if we get anyone else coming online here. So that's kind of my rant about time. And I think everyone just needs to reflect where you're putting your time, and is that time useful for you, and is that time useful for your students? You need to think about time that's useful for you as well. So there's that. About professional educator, my biggest point in this course is about reflection. Okay, I answered a Hartwig yesterday to his submission, and I said, really, there's 3 points for me to this course. Number 1 is I'm trying to give you an introduction to what flipped learning is about. Number 2, I'm a geek. I use a lot of tools, and there's actually a lot of tools I get introduced by my colleagues in these courses, so I love that. But I see some of you latching onto tools that I'm using, whether it's Schoology, whether it's You Can Book Me, whether it's using Google Drive in a different way, or just using Facebook and using social media for work as opposed to play or posting what you're eating for lunch. I find that really useful, that people are picking up tools kind of accidentally through how I give my courses or how I give these PD courses. And then the third thing really is that I want people to reflect on their teaching practices, and not just reflect internally and think about it themselves, and not just talk to me. This is why I'm not having you just submit to me. I want you to submit these assignments in our forum. I'm not making you submit globally to the internet. We're in this closed environment with just us taking this course, and I want us to share, and it's been good. I think it will be better in the summer. That's been a comment of a lot of other people. Perhaps I think the big win we've had with this type of design of course is that it's not one Saturday morning or 2 Saturday mornings where we just go and meet each other physically in the classroom. And some people are scrambling that morning of the class to get the homework done for the session, of the PD session. The fact that it's been flexible has been a double-edged sword. That flexibility means people can do it whenever they want, but it also means that people can not do it whenever they want. But I think in general it's better because it's flexible, and it's also better because it's long. This course is lasting 5, 6, 7 weeks. So it gives people the chance to spend a lot of time reflecting. And what you're going to say this week has 4 weeks of brewing in your head about your practices and what's happening. And it's end of the year, so I think that's always a good time of the calendar year for us to reflect. And summer's actually fun too. And people had a lot of reflections during summer when they were on downtime from classes. So that's about the time, about what I've wanted through this course, and what my professional development is through this course. What I haven't pushed as much as you on this one, because I think it would require that I sit in front of you and show it off, is using tools like Twitter, using tools to share in other ways through blog posting or posting to Facebook in a professional use. I think that's the biggest win I've had for my professional development and increasing my PLN, my professional learning network of people I know, people I talk to, people I reach out to when I have questions, or when you've had a bad day and you post the flip class hashtag and say, this happened to me today. And people say, yeah, it happened to me today and happened to me. And you'll get over it. And the next day you'll be better. And the next day is a better day. I think Twitter is the thing I wish I had used more for education 2.5 years ago when I started this. So that's pretty well I want to say about this topic here, unless someone else is jumping in to join me and have a cool conversation, but nobody's here. I'd like to add about that, about tools, using Twitter, using all of these other tools. We have that session, for those of you who can make it on Campus Guadalajara on Fridays from 3 to 5 p.m. Ezekiel and the people from the SETI set it up, and it's I think it's a good idea. I didn't make it last week because I had commitments. I made it this week at the last minute. I decided I got to get down there and see what's going on. And it's good. I think it's really important for people to share. It's hard to carve some time out of our days. And if you can make it at all, this Friday coming up, definitely come and check things out. Come and share. It's kind of a show and share thing. There's coffee, there's cookies, there's pop and stuff there. I'll just partake of the coffee. If everyone has a suggestion, if you want to say, go show us this stuff next week, I'll do it. There's no problem. Or if you want me to show things at another time, we can set up some lunch bag sessions, different time of the day. Maybe Friday afternoon, 3 to 5 doesn't work for you. For those who are looking for points, apparently you get credit for being in these 2-hour sessions. I didn't know that. The sheet went around and I signed it. And someone else told me these are worth hours of credit for our professional development. So if you want the points, you can show up for those 2 hours of points. I don't worry so much about that or track my points for professional development until my boss comes looking at me and says, hey, you haven't done enough hours. But he doesn't do that, so that's good. So if someone wants to, I was thinking of showing off how to use Twitter. I was thinking of showing how I use Facebook in my class for communicating with my students. And I've actually got some students working on a tool to extract data. So we can do some data analysis of engagement in our Facebook group for my courses, but also show you how we use Facebook for being a professional educator and communicating what we're doing and communicating what we're seeing and commenting on what other people are doing in the field. We should also be talking about how we can take our practices and share them with a larger community through conferences. I actually have a couple submissions I need to send off for the Flip Learning 2015 conference, which should be, I believe, at Michigan State University. That's coming up. The deadline's early December. The conference is in July, I think. Let me just do a screen share again here, and I'll show you what the conference is. FlipCon 15 is what I'm going to search for. Make sure I find it before I go on screen share here. There it is. So let me screen share here, and I'll screen share FlipCon 15 for you. So this is the 8th annual conference on Flip Learning. It's July 13th to 15th, which works good for us. It's at Michigan State University, as I thought. I was there in FlipCon 14 in Mars, Pennsylvania last year, and really enjoyed it. What really made it interesting for me to go to FlipCon was I had interaction with some of these people before I went. And there's actually people I met at the conference, and then it clicked to me later, oh, you're that tag ID on Twitter, and we've interacted before on chats. So I knew some people, and I expected to see them before I got there. I didn't get there as an anonymous, knowing nobody. There's obviously the famous people that I knew, but might have been intimidated, although I'm old enough not to be intimidated at conferences anymore. And it was great. The fact that I'm in this social network with these people made this conference that much better. So definitely join us on Flip Class Chats. That's another part of this topic is joining things like chats. Flip classes on Monday evenings, 7 p.m. local Guadalajara time, and we talk about things that are Flip Class. Maybe I'll try to do a Monday evening where I stay on campus, and we could do that from there. And you could, if you're not ready to jump in, maybe you can. Maybe I can do it live. Ken participating in Flip Class chat on a Monday evening there at the campus, and we can show you. So this is the call for presentation or participation. Presentations, they call it. I call it participation. Is now open, and a deadline of December 1st. There's, I believe, I can send 2 presentations, and so what I'm probably going to send is one presentation about how I'm interacting with faculty and promoting Flip Learning, and basically what we're doing with this course and other things I've done with promoting Flip Learning in the Tec de Monterrey community, as well as I'm starting to do a little bit more promotion with other communities as well. Flip Class Korea invited me, and I've talked to a couple elementary schools here. So that's the other thing we should talk about. And I'll show you Flipped Learning Network and the FlipCon 15, since that is related to this week's topic. Let me try one more chance to invite people here because it's 9:30 and we're running out of time. Hopefully people will actually see this or are watching it. I'm not sure. Hey, there's Alex. About 2 questions. I've uploaded my first flip learning videos on Google Drive using Camtasia. Is there a way I can monitor how many students have watched it? Also, is there a limit on how many people can view the videos on a single upload? No, so if you put it, if it looks like you shared it to Google Drive. If you shared it to Google Drive, there's no limit. Definitely not. It's just there. I haven't done this of sharing to the Google Drive and then having people get to it. There's different ways you can set it up. What I'd like to look at, because I think this is what you want to know. You want to know how many people are seeing it. That's good. YouTube Analytics will give you this type of thing where if you have it on YouTube and you can see how many people have seen it during the days and you get that kind of stats, you're not going to know who saw it necessarily. But you also get a better view of how many minutes of that video have been watched. And then if you say, it says there's been 100 minutes of the video watched and 30 people have seen it, then you can do the math and you're thinking, oh, they see a third of it by average. Maybe some people saw all of it. Some people only opened it up, watched the first 5 seconds and said, this is not for me. Some random person on the internet or your student. Remember, it's just because your student didn't see it doesn't mean they didn't see it. This is something you got to be aware of. Students tend to work together. They might have opened up the video in the library, or maybe not the library, not to be noisy. Maybe they have their headphones on. And maybe 2 or 3 students are watching your video using the account of another student. So be careful with that. I've seen that kind of negative analytics views in other areas like software engineering where we track what people do, but if they're doing it together, we don't see what both people do. Anyway, on Google Drive, I don't know. One thing we should look at where we have more control of looking at things with Google Drive is using the Google Drive of our Google Apps for Education for the Tech of the Month today. We have that. If you don't know about that, we need to talk about that probably at one of these innovation, what do we call it? Innovation clubs on Friday afternoons at the campus. So we should show you how to set up your Google Apps for Tech. Once you've done that, then you can put it in an area that only people with an @etesm.x address can get into. And then you can put some tracking on it and you know that they've done it. There's simpler ways to do this as well though. Or maybe not so simple, but if you want to do it, Rosa Maria Brito, who was there at the club yesterday, she could show you this, and I showed this in a previous course of using TED-Ed. So TED-Ed, let me bring up a screen share here in a second. Get Safari open again, and I'll bring up TED-Ed for you. Answer Alex's question. I'm calling you Alex, but I don't know if you like Alex. Let's see, TED-Ed. So let me do a screen share here. If you don't like Alex, sorry, I'll just call you Alejandro because that's what it says. So TED-Ed, Lessons Worth Learning. Actually, John is on the board, I think, or one of the founding members of TED-Ed. So you probably know about TED videos. They're great videos. They're motivational videos. And what TED-Ed is an idea that you can take a video and then wrap a lesson around it. I'm not going to show you here because I don't use it that much and I'd give a bad live demo. But if you go to teded.com, or sorry, it's ed.ted.com, I'm looking in the URL bar there. There's a Take the TED-Ed tour. Go take a look at this. It's great. There's some really good examples. And the idea is you set up a video, so the student goes to it, the student views it. You can have questions, multiple choice questions to go along with it. You can ask more open questions. You can leave spaces for them to ask questions about the video and give feedback about the video. And then maybe at the end of the video, you can say how to go further. What should you look at next if you're interested in this? And then you do get information about who is logged in, who's seen it, and their answers to the questions. So that's a really cool way to, and you can embed any video. You can upload your own video, I think. But most common is that people embed an already existing YouTube video. So if you've uploaded your content to YouTube, you could wrap your YouTube video, have this wrapped around it. So you can ask questions about the video while the students are watching the video. So I'm going to stop that screen share. TED-Ed or ed.ted is awesome. Definitely take a look at that. if you're using Camtasia, there's some other things you can do as well. If you you can do embedded questions. So actually, Martin showed this yesterday at our session. Speaking of, and Martin's done flip learning, and he does it a lot. And what he uses is Camtasia, and it's only the Camtasia Windows version. The Mac version doesn't have this, unfortunately. You have to use the Windows version to use this. And what he does is he takes his video, which he records using Educations, I believe. Doesn't matter where he recorded it. He took the video, created somewhere else. He imports it into Camtasia. And then what you can do is you can do markers. You say at 1 minute and 20 seconds, it'll pause the video. It'll ask the students some questions, and they can't continue the video until they've answered these questions. And then you can upload that to Camtasia's server. I'm trying to remember the name of their server right offhand, but it's stuck in me. Or there's a way where you can package it up and then put it somewhere on a server and embed that video on that platform, and it'll do the same thing. The student plays a video, it stops, they have to answer some questions, and then it lets them finish. And then you get the answers to these questions. Martin showed a real cool thing that I didn't know existed because I haven't been using Blackboard for a couple of years because I really don't like it, that you can upload this zip package. It's a zip archive of the files of your video and the questions and stuff that Camtasia creates, Camtasia, the Windows version. And then you put it into Blackboard, and it embeds it in our Blackboard system for the Tec de Monterrey. So I didn't know this existed for us, and it's a great thing. I know it exists that you can put it in a web server, and it's tricky and kind of hard to use, but it looks like the Blackboard system's well implemented. I know Martin's been using Blackboard forever, and he's probably on the geek level of using Blackboard. So I need to sit down with him or other people and see if there's, as other professors during yesterday's session said, I want a for dummies version of these tools. I'm not sure how for dummies this is, how easy click key it is. So there's that. There's some other tricks you can do as well that aren't so technical in nature. So have a video and then have them make notes about the video. Watch the video, make a summary, and then create questions that they have about the videos. And you usually want them to create higher questions. And you want them to not say, oh, I don't have any questions because I understood everything. You want them, I at least force my students to, if you don't have a question because you just were understanding everything, I want you to create a question that a student that didn't understand the video would have if they're watching the video. So there's that. Let me do another screen share. I'm going to load this up and see if Alex has any comments there on the page. Alejandro is going to hit me because I keep saying, okay, so Alex is fine. Thanks for the info. Also, I saw a message from Camtasia regarding the ability to put quizzes during the video. Okay, I just talked about that. Good. Yeah, cool. Club to Innovation. So let me bring up a couple things here. I want to bring up Crystal Kirch's blog in a tab. flippingwithkirch.blogspot.com. I was going to talk about that. The other thing I was going to talk about, oh, darn. Yeah, well. So let me do a screen share again. I'm going to send you to my Safari browser. So Flipping with Kirch, Crystal Kirch is awesome, just simply awesome. Excellent teacher. She's now doing a lot of coaching. So you can read about her reflections of coaching. I'm really interested in this because this is something I'm getting more into is coaching teachers. But what you could do, if you go to Crystal's blog, flippingwithkirch.blogspot.mx or .com, depending which country you're in, she's got her weekly reflections here from 11-12 and 12-13. She's one of the early persons doing flipping. One of John's early podcasts was an interview with Crystal Kirch. Great interview, talking about the fact that she really kind of bared her soul in her weekly reflections in 11-12 and 12-13. Great thing to go and read if you're just starting. See how someone else started. Crystal also took part in the second book that was just published this summer by John and Erin, and she wrote her chapter in that book. So come and take a look at Crystal Kirch's website. Great stuff. What I really want to show you though is this link here called WSQing or whisking, as those in the know call it. So Crystal has this great document she wrote about how she does whisking, and we should patent whisking to Crystal. She's the queen of whisking. So come and take a look at this. This actually links to a Google document. So she uses Google Docs a lot, and has some great material that you should take a look at. This one in particular, take a look at it, how she does whisking. And the idea is making meaning of the material, understand the concepts, receive one-on-one support and explanation of the teacher. In a nutshell, the way I think of it, and I'm a novice at this, and I need to learn more from Crystal, and she blew me away with her session at FlipCon, is, like I said, the idea is WSQ, watch, summarize, question. So you might assign the video, you ask the students to watch it, and then you got to tell them how to watch things. Don't tell them, grab popcorn and watch it. You need to watch it with a headphones in, focus. Actually, Crystal has something about that here in her fact, but I'm not going to get distracted again. Watch it, focused, put your headphones in so you're totally focused on the video. Tell them they can pause, they can fast forward, they can rewind, they can play at a slower speed, and then make their summary of it. Crystal talks about, or I'm pretty sure Crystal does, but I've seen other people talk about, you might want to have some keywords that they need to include in their summary. So you're kind of pointing them in the right direction that you want them to go. I don't like to do that too much because I don't like to lead them. I like to get surprised by what they write about videos or readings that I give. Again, this can be done without video. It could be about a reading. And then have them ask questions. You want them to submit this in Blackboard or whatever platform you're using ahead of the class session so that you can take a look at these questions and you go, oh, look at all these common questions that everyone's having problems with this concept. Okay, let's attack that in class the next session I see them. Or, everybody got that. I guess we don't need to spend extra time on that. And it gives you better feedback instead of guessing where the problems are, so that when you do activities inside the class, you can attack it. And for bonus, you've tracked who's watched the video. There's a lot of other things you can do. Let's see, flipping physics, 9 do's. So the other thing I want to show you here is I pointed out flipping physics videos, Jonathan's videos before. You might want to take a look at John's videos about flipping. So he's got, this is his homepage. He does tons of videos about physics. So if you teach physics based on algebra or calculus, you want to see his videos and you want to share them with your students. But he has a bunch of things about how to flip, the basics of flipping, and videos about flipping. This is the 9 do's for making engaging flipping videos. And he'll talk about all the things you should do. He also has a video about 9 don'ts, and he has another one about, here they are, the basics, the 8 don'ts, sorry, and then the 9 do's. That you should create lecture notes for things, or this is other links for him. This is a short video, take a look at it, and I'm in the video. Hey, cool. One thing he mentions is that just do silly things, like you'll be here doing a video, and I'll take off the screen here, share here in a second, so you can watch my gestures. So you're here doing a video, and then this is not a comfortable place to make videos in my office at home, but maybe my son will walk in and hand me a coffee mug and wave and then walk off. And then the next day, or people are asking, oh, who was that? Was that your second son, your first son? Who was on the video? And so if you create these kind of surprise moments in the videos, it's easy to tell if they've seen it. Okay, it could be because you're wearing a silly hat. It could be I could have a poster of my favorite band in the background and they're going to ask about that. It could be any of the above, right? So you basically want to create an engaging video so that you can see that they saw it. Let's see if I can reload. I already purchased Camtasia and have it on my laptop. Awesome. Actually, I did the same thing. I requested my boss and the admins, the tech, 2 years ago. I can't remember when I bought my license. For the Mac to buy it, and things were slow. The accounting and administrative stuff sometimes takes a long time at the tech. I just got an email yesterday closing the file on my travel from July, which was 4 months ago. So accounting takes a long time. I'm not going to say if it's bad or good, but I'm just really impatient. So rather than wait for them to buy it for me, I purchased my own version of Camtasia for Mac. I think it's a good investment for me, and now I have no problem using Camtasia for my own work at school, or I can use it for my other stuff because it's my software, and I don't have a restriction on what I'm using it for. Let's see what else. Yeah, Camtasia is awesome. And I happen to have a version of Camtasia for Windows because I did some beta testing for them. And as part of the beta testing and giving them feedback about the newer versions of Camtasia for Windows, they gave me a free license for Camtasia for Windows. Well, they offered for both, but I already had Mac, so I took the Windows one. Yeah, Camtasia is really, really good. You should definitely use Camtasia. I think we have one license in the campus, and one thing that came up in our innovative club yesterday was we need more tools and software and places to do things ready. I was working on this during the last year, mostly because I didn't push hard enough. I think that we didn't get it set up, but I want to create a room that's isolated enough where teachers can create videos. Simple setup with a computer there, with a Camtasia installation or other software we might need. I'd like to put a green screen in the background so we can do some green screen recording, decent equipment for doing audio and video, because one thing you'll notice, especially when you're doing screen captures, if you're doing audio and video from the built-in sound from your laptop and you're typing away on your laptop, that rattle really makes it painful to people listening to your video. So you want to use an external microphone. I'm not sure which microphone I'm using right now during this recording, but I might be using the one that's on that camera up there. Oh, someone's here. Arturo's there. All right, cool. I didn't see you connect. So yeah, I want to set up a place for us to do recording. Also, they showed yesterday they have the magic pen. I don't know what it was called, but the idea is you can take this pen and you can write on paper, and it records everything you're writing, and then it can actually play that back. So you can make a video that shows you writing something. That's really cool. Martin is a mathematics teacher, showed us what he was using with Educations, and he uses his tablet, and he's drawing on top of the tablet, writing math formulas, and he said he doesn't have good writing, so the students don't understand it, so he creates an image of the formula on the top of the screen, so students can read the formula, and then he's doing problems writing across the tablet with the tablet pen, the stylus, and it records that, and then he sends that to his students. A comment he had is the sound was really poor, and I said, well, yeah, it's going to be poor because it's the built-in microphone from the iPad, and you're moving it, you're shuffling it. It would definitely improve the sound if you get a cheap, even a cheap lavalier mic that costs like $10 or something, that clips here, grabs the sound from your chest, and connects to the audio input port of either your laptop or your iPad. So if you're recording on your iPad, I've done this for other sessions. I eat headphones apparently. I've broken so many sets. I don't have a set right now that has a microphone. So if you have the headset that came with your cell phone and has audio recording and the earphones, then put them in, and it's going to be picking up the sound from your ear, and it's going to be much better quality than the built-in microphone. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see if there's any other questions here in the session. No, nothing. I know Arturo's there. I'm going to go look over here. So if anyone's commenting on the page of the event, I could see it as well. Got to work out a better way to use this. Oh, there we go. Oh, I've got a question. So there's the group chat as well here on Hangout. Got to figure out a better way to get everyone into these. I think definitely for the Innovation Club, I should probably fire up a Google Hangout sometime and see if people can figure out how to use Google Hangouts, because we're not using it well right now. What else we got? Who else has questions? I can see your questions now, Arturo, if you're typing there, because you sent that just a few minutes ago, so you're probably still there. Alejandro, if you want to put anything in the Schoology page, that's cool, or anyone else on submission number 4. I can actually see. That's Hardfig's message. I already saw that. Nope, nothing else I need to look at there. Yeah. And what I really invite people to do, I know it's a crazy time. We got exams starting next week. I've got an exam on Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, then Monday. So I'm going to be slammed next week. I want to get my exams ready this weekend and share it with my colleague. I will be giving, if you're interested, myself and Yolanda Cham will be giving another 10-minute talk, I think. I'm not sure how long it's going to be, about 10 minutes, on the Charlas de Innovación that we're doing now at the Tec de Monterrey every Wednesday afternoon. I believe it starts about 4 to 5:30. Yeah, every Wednesday, 4 to 5:30 our local time. It's done by the Rectoría de Innovación Educativa, Manuel Tamas and his people coordinate this, but we're sending things from every campus. Next week, the focus is actually on flipped learning. I can't remember who else was going to be talking. I was having a meeting with Diana the other day about it, and I couldn't hear very well who it was, and I didn't need to know who it was, so I'm not too worried right now. I'm interested in watching what they do. But they invited myself and Yolanda to summarize what we're doing specifically, how we're doing flipped learning. They invited me last month, and I kind of said, this is what flipped learning is, find us and get involved. Yeah, Arturo, go ahead. Type it or chat it. So on Wednesday, we'll be talking about what we do.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, for some reason, just the sound kind of goes away. Connection's not very good today, but I've been reading some of the posts that our colleagues have shared with us.
Yep.
And
sounds pretty bad. Keep going.
I could easily identify the frustration when it comes to, I don't know, from your perspective or in your experience, how have you handled this sort of controlled chaos in order to kind of let teachers know that that chaos is still okay, but when do you know, or where can you tell that the chaos is kind of going out of control, and when, or what kind of signs do you see in the room when you can say, okay, you know, this is getting out of control, rather than saying, okay, you know, this is still part of the, you know, control chaos that I was kind of expecting. I don't know if you could comment on that a little bit.
So if it's chaos that they're actually doing something, that's always useful. So I'm not too worried about it being so chaotic. I'm always worried about being chaotic that we're disrupting the other classes, but that's a different issue. My worry mostly in the chaos is that they're not actually working on what we want them to be working on. And there's a fine line there, because I'm doing full out mastery, and my students know that I want them to learn to manage their time. So if it happens to be that they need to study for their Mandarin exam during my class time, I actually don't have a problem with that, as long as they're doing okay, and I don't need to lean on them that, you know what, maybe you're studying Mandarin now because you're falling behind in everything, and this is a sign of a crisis. If they're a good student and they're managing their time, and I'm teaching them to manage their time so that they can do their projects when they need to, maybe the push won't be so much that. Maybe it's if this happens all the time, it's a problem. And I like to make it the best use of my time in class as well, and they need to think about, is this the best time to be doing what you're doing that's not related to the class? So maybe it's a matter of, we can't sit back at our desk and watch everything happen. We have to get ourselves in the middle of the students and see what they're doing. So that's my main suggestion. Each teacher is going to be different how we react to this, Arturo. We know we all teach differently, and I think we need to identify what are our weak points. If our weak point is it's really easy just to sit at the front of the class, and then it gets out of control, maybe we need to inject ourselves into the groups more and see what they're doing, to get into the classroom, and with those node chairs, the colorful bumper cars, sit with them and see what each team is doing, make notes, have someone summarize them, what they're working on, maybe pick out the shy student in the group of 4 and get that person to explain what they're doing, and if that person can explain that they're not working as a team, inject yourselves into these groups. I have a weird situation because I have this first semester computing course, and I have this mixture of geeks that really actually probably don't even need to take the course, mixed in with people who really have no experience. So I need to spend a lot of my time with the ones that really need my help, and just kind of check in with the nerds and make sure that they, whether it's she or he, are fine. Give them some pointed questions about the topic so I know they're okay, and then they can go back to what they're working on, whether it's an advanced thing or if they're just reading some other information. My weak point is definitely how to not attack, that's a bad way of saying, how to inject myself into the head of the really shy students that aren't telling me what they need. So in terms of chaos, it really depends on our definition. I think what we need to do more, Arturo, myself, yourself, especially since we're trying to write papers about what people are doing, is get ourselves into other people's classrooms, maybe even to each other's classrooms, and see what's going on to observe. Does that help at all? Probably not. I'm rambling. Still there? I know your internet's really weak today. Or type it.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thing is, the sound kind of goes off and on. Well, thank you for the comment. Actually, you said two things that I can take with me right now. One is, just keep on checking what students are doing, and I know it sounds obvious, but when it comes to being distracted or doing something else, to what extent should we really make sure that even if they get distracted, they're kind of on task all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing you said was like about spending time with the students that really need your help. I don't know how your more advanced students feel about the fact that you spend more time with other students than with them, and I don't know if they're really aware of the fact that they don't need that much help, or that they're not really getting what they are, in this case, paying for, because that's one of the concerns. Right. Like, the teacher's there to give us all the same attention, but if I'm not getting the one I'm supposed to, and the ones that are behind are getting more, so that means that, I don't know, maybe I should not be so advanced in order to get more attention or more time. I don't know. It's just one of
I really identify with that point of view from the students. But I think we have maybe it's a leadership issue, maybe it's, I've got this blog post pending and sitting in my draft folder about what you pay for as a student of the Tec de Monterrey. And I remember students doing this before, and they go, okay, I have 3 hours of class a week, 16 weeks, that's 48 hours. I pay this much per semester for this many courses. They do all the math, and they figure out how much per hour they're paying for their course. And that's not valid, because they're not paying for those hours that they see me in the room. They're paying for the access to me and their colleagues. I mean, the fact that you go to a private, prestigious university has benefit the fact that you've just been there and you're a graduate of this institution. But yesterday I had, I don't know how many students that aren't my students, and they're not in my class, and so they're not paying for access to Ken Bauer, asking me questions in my office, or asking me a question over Facebook, or asking me. So we kind of need to turn our students and our teachers' heads around about what are we delivering? What are they paying for? So that's a bigger question I think we all need to think about, and I think we need to push students to think about more directly to your question about, are there students that are like, this isn't fair, I'm paying the same as her or him, and she's getting more percentage of your time in class than I am. That's a delicate subject to breach, and we need to talk about what is fairness to start with, but I don't have that much of a problem. I've had a couple cases where students are really upset that they need my time. In general, I can diffuse that really quickly because my time, I really focus on that. My time with the students isn't just what they have in class, because you guys have seen access to my kenbauer.you can book me.
Yeah.
I don't have scheduled office hours, so I'm like ridiculously available between 8 a.m., 5:30 p.m., and I block out sessions when I need to go pick up my kids and when I have meetings. But my availability is huge, and I should actually publish some statistics about it and how much my students actually use it. And then I make a point to them of, you're not really just paying for me in class here. And I'm not being a jerk about it, I don't say it that way, but hey, I didn't have time for you today, but you know what? Let's look at my calendar. I've got all these slots open here. When can we talk some more? And if that isn't enough, I'm going to say, okay, you're going to get my first attention the next day in class. Because in general, those students that make those complaints don't tend to be the silent ones. They'd be the vocal ones. So I think we can head them off. There's the other ones that are just nerds, and they're fine. They're like, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to play Magic the Gathering in class, and I'm okay, and I'm all right with that to a point. What I try to do sometimes is I diffuse those students, say, okay, why don't you go help this guy over here, because you already know a lot. He needs some help. I don't have time to work with him right now because I'm working with her. How about you go and explain for loops to this student? So I'm trying to be active that way, and it's a balance. Very much in my classroom, it's a balance. I don't tend to have. I don't think I have those students complaining. My biggest worry really is the ones that are silent and are having problems, and they don't tell me. And I'm an introvert in many ways, but I need, maybe because I have a fear of asking them, I needed to work a lot more to get those students, because I think those are the ones that are going to be thinking, this isn't fair. He's spending all this time with all these other people, but he's not asking me. So that's, I think, my biggest challenge and my biggest weakness in this walking around the classroom, spending time individually or in small groups with my students. For me, it's the biggest problem is the shy students, and I don't know how to fix that right now.
Well, thank you. Thing is that I guess we all kind of worry about trying to give the same amount of time or giving the same attention to everyone, which we know is impossible because we've got 20-something or 30-something students. When I read the posts, most people were saying, but how can you get so close to a student if you have 20-something or 30-something, and it gets to a point where you can't really be with them all the time. Right. But what came to mind after reading that was, I think it may not be a solution, but if you...
You're cutting out for a second there, Arturo. Might not be a solution, but if you can, that's what I heard.
Students since the very beginning of how those moments of 10 at some point that you won't be with them all the time, but there would be times where they would have all your full attention, and well, I don't know if that's going to be enough for them, but at least I think that if we tell them since the very beginning the dynamics of a class, how a class will be conducted, I think at some point they will understand why we're not with them all the time, why we're changing this traditional teaching model, and I guess somehow they feel and we feel that everyone's getting the same attention when we're lecturing, because everyone's receiving the same information at the same time.
But they're not.
Yeah, that's true. So that's when I was questioning.
Facebook is getting nothing, so.
Yeah, and when it comes to getting a little or giving a little bit more to specific students, then obviously you're neglecting other people in the group, and you're giving more attention to others. But
you always answer the question from the preguntones, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, am I giving really the attention they deserve?
Right.
Do students understand that at this point they don't have that many questions, but later on they may have some questions, and their time will come eventually. But I don't know. I think we have to set this at the very beginning and make them.
One thing you mentioned there, and I think, and this came up yesterday from Eduardo Cardoso, the senior, Mr. C, yesterday at our innovation group.
Yeah.
Talked about really being clear at the beginning how our communication methods work. So the fact that my students can ask me questions on Facebook in the Facebook group, or they can actually message me directly, privately, even though I'm not their friend, because we're in the same Facebook group, and they can get my attention through email, they can get my attention through Facebook, Twitter. They're not used to it. We've got to be very careful, and that came up yesterday, that we've got to be very careful of not creating an environment where they expect 24/7 attention. We've got to be very careful about that. But the fact that we offer ourselves at a massive amount of communication, actually some students or some teachers talked about having their what's up groups with their students, and that freaks me out. I don't want to give anyone my home or cell phone number, so that's outside of my bounds. But I think we just need to be very clear. There's other teachers who say the only way to contact me is through Blackboard and email, and they make it really clear with their students that way, and it works really well for them. So I think one thing we got to be careful with is that we're very clear how we set up these communication lines, because every teacher's different. We don't have a standardized, and I don't think we should have a standardized way, because I think it's confusing to the students because every teacher's different and they don't know how to communicate with us. So there's that, but I just keep getting back to my problem is the ones that don't communicate, and the shy ones. And I'm pushing really hard on people being very open and sharing everything and doing things in front of each other, because I think the discussion's better in a group. But I'm a little bit more scared about the really shy students and being pushing them off to the corner more by kind of forcing them to come out and be public. Yeah. It's my biggest challenge. Yeah, I need to write that blog post about what you pay for. Definitely. I've been thinking a lot about that over the last year, because it's not how many hours of class you have. And a lot of students do that mental mathematics, and it's not just what happens in the classroom that they're paying for. Not even talking about the fact they're paying for the football stadium and the library and all the other things that their tuition goes towards. It's an important message that I think we need to send as teachers, but also I think the tech needs to kind of send that message that that's what they're paying for.
Yeah, and I think it also has to do with the fact that I don't think it is clear for the students to understand what
you're all echoey. Darn you, internet.
What? Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Yeah, I think it just kind of goes on and off. But what I was saying was that I think one of the main problems we have is that we as teachers have different expectations in our classes, and students take 6 different classes every semester. And there's no one orientation session where the tech really communicates how we learn at tech and how we expect them to learn, and I guess that's part of the problem why every teacher kind of sets their own standards and the dynamics, and students don't really have any idea of what this new Tech 21 educational model is, because it's just so abstract, and we don't really get down to defining exactly at least the minimum elements that are going to be present in our classes. And this happens a lot, for example, with international students. When I go to the orientation session, I tell them, you're not expected to just be sitting down, taking notes, listening, being passive, because the way we work here, or we are used to learning here at the Tech, is by interacting, by working, in groups, by doing other things. So at least I could say that's my contribution, but to a very small population of the students, and it's only the international students. But I wish that we would have some sort of orientation session, academically speaking, for the students, where they are told, in your classes, this is the kind of learning environment that you will experience, and these are just some of the possible things that you will be doing in your classes. Like, I don't know, just to kind of give him some sort of orientation.
I've thought about that, actually. I'm cutting you off, but you're drowning. Oh, hold on.
How teachers work in the classroom.
I think it's been a long time since I gave the intro to the career courses, because I was director of ISC in 2000-2001. I'm sure that's where this stuff should be. I'm curious to what actually is happening in those courses. I'm wondering, is there the right course? I really, really, really wish the Tech would create a first year, at least engineering, medicine, and business to be different, or whatever, that is just like tronco común. Like, every student takes the same set of courses where we can attack these problems. And then in a communication course, or something that is a course of like you're saying, of how to be a student at the Tec de Monterrey. right? Like when I was a student, we did this in our English literature or composition class, where we had to learn how to use the library index cards and all the stuff that ancient people like us had before internet, as we know it. Where they pushed that content. I'm sure the teacher wasn't happy that they pushed that content into her course. But there's got to be a place where we teach students how to be students and be successful students at the Tec de Monterrey. I don't want to see us standardize that every teacher has to teach the same way. I really don't want that. But I think sensitizing the students about this is the way most teachers teach at the Tech. You're going to have these type of teachers. You're going to have these type of teachers. You better be aware that some teachers, it's 40% your final exam, and there's going to be a huge final project, and you're going to work like a dog in the last 2 weeks of the semester, which I don't like either, but a lot of classes are like that.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have ones that are touchy-feely or communicate a lot. Kind of get them ready, and even the little things like how to use Google Calendar and schedule their week and schedule their homework and be a little more organized would be really, really useful, because I'm finding, because I'm getting my students to be more self-control of their own education, they don't even know how to schedule their lives. Like they don't know what's for homework next week, and they should, because we spell it all out for them. We give it to them on the page 1.
Yeah.
They don't try. They always used to, I can just ask at the last second, and someone will tell me what I need to do.
Right.
I'm trying to tell them not to do that, but we keep feeding them through these loops the same way, and we do it the same ourselves. We get 5 messages about a campus general meeting, and then they keep sending it to us until an hour before the meeting, as opposed to sending it once, and then I put it in my calendar, and you don't need to tell me 4 more times.
Right.
So I think there's a cultural thing there, but we definitely, I'd like, one thing I'd like to talk to you if you're at it. I don't know if you're going to the Conference of Innovation in Education in Mexico City, but it'd be a cool thing to bring up with a bunch of people, and especially people that are directors of careers. I'm sure we'll run into some there. I'd like to ask, like, where's that happening? I don't know if have you seen the new test encuesta for students?
No, not the one that they're answering right now.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
I immediately replied, and I was upset because I said you shouldn't be giving this to our students without us letting us see the questions first. And they sent it to me, and I said, no, you don't understand. This is not give Ken Bauer this data. I'm talking as a voice for all teachers. You should be sharing this with us directly. I also made some other points that I want them to improve, and they actually responded. They said thank you for your input, and they gave me the questions. I'm really happy because there's only 7 questions, which is good, and they're much more aligned with about innovation and technology in our teaching.
Okay.
And like OGP and stuff like that, which drove me nuts before. So I think the tech is starting to align what we ask the students, and hopefully how we tell the students how teaching and learning in the tech is. Because I think they've done a lot with us of telling us to innovate, but we're not really kind of preparing neither the teachers and middle management and students for what we want to do in innovation. So I think they're really happy with what we're doing in innovation, and we're seeing that. But I think we're starting to see the turnaround of how we measure students' advances and their feedback from them. So the questions are really good. I had one problem with one question, and I told them about it, and we'll see how the survey comes out. The big interesting thing is the scale is going to change a lot, because there's like super excellent, there's good, there's okay, and poor. So I guess poor is 5 and okay is 4. So if they're expecting us to get 1 point something, that's going to be nuts. So I think they're going to do. The scales are totally broken, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because
Finally.
the way that I was getting scores of 1.1 something, and I was in the 57th percentile on some semesters, which I thought was just insane. So hopefully that turns around. But I really, really think there's a like this week's topic was professional educator. I think we need to think about professional learner and how students need to be professional learners, and we're preparing them and what that means, right? It's not just do what your teacher says to do.
Yeah, I would be happy just to do this with my own class. I know it's, just a little start, but I think that if the tech doesn't do it yet or hasn't done it yet, at least I would, if I do it in my class, I would contribute a little bit to, especially to make things easier and smoother in my class. but to a certain extent, it's kind of a good time when students are very receptive, and I believe that if we don't do it at the very beginning, then it just loses its value. And like, for example, if I try to do something right now, it's obviously too late. We're just about to finish the class, but
Yep.
I'm sure at least I would like the next semester to begin with a session like this, where I would tell them, this is what you can expect from the course.
I think now is a good time, and I use this time a lot. Of you run into students and you know they're going to fail. Like I ran into a student the other day. How are you doing? And he says, "Pues
How I
tratando."
would you are.
And I'm like, well, good luck with that. But you know what? Maybe you'll fail a course or two. But my hope is that at least you're going to learn something. Because I failed courses before. That you're going to learn something from this experience that's going to help you next semester. And that's what I'm attacking a lot with students right now, because they know they're going to fail or they're not going to fail, or they're
It's how you take failure, right? Yeah.
right. And I give them the story. I said I failed 3 courses. I failed one because I didn't show up for the exam, and I wasn't going to go and complain or cry or ask for an exam. I was like, well, that was stupid. I failed the course. I'll have to take it again.
Yeah.
And I took 2 years off, and I studied to be a chef, and realized I definitely don't want to do that. And I came back with way more energy to study when I came back to study. So I believe heavily in learning from failure, and I try to teach to my students that failing isn't so bad. I'm not saying you should fail on purpose to learn something,
Yeah.
but I think that's what the reflection time is. And I think some of these things we try to do at the end of the semester, we should be doing at the beginning.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I like what you talk about international students, because they definitely, and not even just definitely, have different experience to us. Like, different international students have different experiences. My French students are very different to my German students, which are different to my Swedish students.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, because I just had those
I'm
concerns.
glad you attack that with the international students. That's important.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're like past 10 o'clock, and we rambled. I rambled for 40 minutes, and then you jumped in, so that's good. I'm glad it wasn't me solo again. I got to figure out how to do these sessions better.
Okay. No, but yeah, I really like the fact that this time I can see some of the apps on my left-hand side of the screen, and I can see the chat on the right-hand side, so which are much.
Cool. We got to figure out this. I think this whole microcosm we're doing with professional learning and online is something to learn.
Here.
If you have a chance, I'll repeat it again for everyone who's listening still, and if you're listening this whole darn hour, you're like amazing. I think this thing the SETI kicked off with the Innovative Club on Friday afternoons from 3 to 5 is going to be a great idea. I'm glad they're doing that, and they're not organizing that they're going to show you something. It's like, show up and share what you have. So don't come there expecting to be passive. It's very active learning, and that's great. So I think I'll make a list of things I could do live at the spur of the moment, but I think everyone should come and think, how can I share or how can I learn something from those? It'd be great. I'd like to have more of those. Actually, one thing that I think, Arturo, you probably heard about, and I'd love to organize, is an ed camp, where it's kind of an unconference where people just show up and share. And it's very dynamic. And I've talked to people at tech, and it just freaks the heck out of them, because they're so used to having conferences that are hyper-organized, where an ed camp is just completely, you don't know what people are going to talk about. You need to organize breaks and refreshments and spaces, but it's just, there's a big board, and you put up a sticker and say, we're going to talk about this in this room, and show up whoever wants to show up and talk about that topic. I'd love to do one of those.
Wow, that sounds very...
It's fun, because it's what we do here.
Innovative.
Yeah, lots of people are doing it. It's happening all over the place, and I've heard lots of conversations about teachers love this, because it takes away the pressure from having to prepare for it, and they can just show and share. I think a lot of people are scared about it, but I think it'll work well. And this thing we're doing on the Fridays is kind of a microcosm of that, because it's not organized of what we're going to see. It's just you share whatever comes up. So I'm thinking we should definitely try to organize. I'm going to convince the right people. We'll do that maybe next semester. So if anyone's interested in that, I'd love to help organize one of those. Not going to do the whole thing. Too busy.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's sign off. And thanks for showing up, Arturo. I know Rocio was going to come, but she didn't come, so I'll talk to her later.
Okay. All
Everyone
right.
should be thinking about their last activity. Today was number 4, and the next one's number 5, which is prepare your flipped lesson. You don't have to have details. I want you really to think about, this is how I'm going to plan out to do something, because obviously it's going to be for next semester. And then on the last assignment is feedback about this course, about what you've learned, what you've reflected on, which is really good for me. That's the part I love the best in the summer course. And then think about it, would this be useful to do again for another group of teachers? I'm sure there's enough people to do it. And would we like to do something similar in this format for other, I want you to reflect, is this format useful for professional development for you in other areas? And give that feedback to the tech. All right, so I'm going to sign off for today. Thanks for Arturo for showing up. Thanks for Alejandro for your messages in the Schoology session. And I went way longer than I thought I would today. Peace out. Have an awesome exam weeks, everybody. Cheers. I'm going to cut it off. Thanks, Arturo.